Welcome to Batchademia,
a podcast so educational it could be a university class.
With your hosts,
Danielle Dick McHugh,
Kim Hannah,
and Bill Henninger.
Welcome!
Hello.
Hello. We are excited today to talk about the wee 4 hours of fantasy suite content we got this week.
Yeah, it was
it's
something.
A commitment. You know, you can't, being a Bachelor fan is not for the faint of heart. Is that the right saying?
Yeah, you got to commit through thick and thin. It's basically a marriage, and you got to be willing, like in good times and bad, in sickness and in health, boring dates, good dates, Jesse Palmer being a robot. I mean, it's a labor of love.
Absolutely. I mean, we spent how many hours watching The Bachelor this week? So Bachelorette. So
4.
Something about this episode made me think about sleeping in weird spots.
This was a very odd question. I liked it.
So my question for this week is like, where are you like unwilling to sleep? You're like, you're like, nope, not gonna do it.
I mean,
like the back of a car, on the ground,
like,
or like you're like sleep anywhere in the Union.
I guess a dumpster, but I have slept in some pretty sketchy places. Like when I lived in Ireland, I ran out of money and I slept in a train station for the night, and it was like pretty scary because there were pickpockets. So I remember I like put everything in my backpack and then like slept with it around my, and I slept for like, so I got a pretty high tolerance for sleep, but yeah.
Would if that
Oh man, you're lagging good, Danielle. Are you there?
Hold on.
You were lagging. You're back.
Do we need to start over? Do I need to call on my phone?
No, I think this is great. I love it. It was amazing.
Okay.
So people are going to enjoy it. It was very robotic. You're like, okay. So you were saying, would I do it now as an adult?
Yes.
I guess I didn't have any money, so I didn't have a choice. So if I was put in a situation where I didn't have a choice, then yes, I would do it. Like, yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's the thing, right? Like you're asking me where, if given a choice, no, I would not do it. But if I like ran out of money, it's like, oh, you do what you got to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, so when I was younger, I could sleep anywhere. Like,
yeah,
I'm kind of notorious for at holidays, I would lay down on the floor after a meal and just fall asleep. I wouldn't have a blanket, a pillow, anything. I'd just be like on the floor out. There is no way, like as an adult, I'm like I was like planning a little getaway with one of my girlfriends, and there weren't very many Airbnbs, and I was like, oh, this one only has one bed, and I was like, nope.
No,
we are adults. I'm not sleeping on the couch. I'm not sharing a bed. Like,
yeah. So, yeah, I don't sleep well, which is strange because I backpack a lot, and I feel like that is just me forcing my body to be like, you get a bed. So when we get back to this bed, let's sleep. But I feel like backpacking is just like 8 hours of being uncomfortable. So my mom is notorious for falling asleep anywhere, but she's also like 4'9", so you can like put her in a dresser drawer and she'll just like fall asleep, So she's always like, I'll sleep on the couch, I love it. It's like, well, yeah, the couch is the same size as my bed in proportion to you, Mom. So
I will say, like, we have like family slumber parties on the couch, and I don't really have trouble with it, but our couch is essentially a bed.
Well, you've got a love sack. Yeah,
we've got a giant, like, it's
call us for sponsorship, love sack.
I like really want to convince you all to come and watch The Bachelor at our house one of these time, and I'm gonna set the couch up so that it's in like the cube formation.
Yes.
And so that we all have to like cuddle on the couch and watch.
So here's an interesting fact I learned the other day. Did you know that there was a beanbag classroom at UNI up until like the early 2000s. But in the 70s, we had one and they would teach class and everyone would just like lie around on the bean bags. And
Wonderful.
yeah, it was in the Union.
That's amazing. We have yoga mats in the theater, and every once in a while I have a class where we just have the yoga mats out.
I like it.
But yoga mats aren't as fun as beanbag classroom. I want a beanbag classroom.
Yeah, I feel like the cleanliness of the beanbag classroom is in question. Like, how do you clean?
Yeah, it's not COVID friendly. No. All right, so there's no way that under normal circumstances I could do a 2-minute recap. So we're just gonna recap these 4 hours as quick as we can.
Yeah.
So fantasy suites. First up, we have Erich and Gabby, and they both declare their love for each other.
Erich.
They have not a metaphor of a date. By that I mean it was totally a metaphor where they take a jump into the water. Gabby's scared, but she eventually jumps. Erich's supportive. They have a meaningful conversation. And the whole time they're having a serious conversation, they're like blacking out Gabby's booty.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out like I don't know. Yeah.
Wow. I love all the memes that are like Yosef's child is watching.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. But anyway, so then they go to the fantasy suite. Next, Rachel chooses to go to the fantasy suites with Aven, and half of her date with Aven is actually an interview between Jesse Palmer and Tino about how much Tino can't handle the idea of Rachel being with anyone else. And I guess he should be worried because after the fantasy suite, Rachel says Aven is the full package, and she says it like twice. Next, they go to Tino and Rachel, who spend the first part of their date avoiding talking about the parent situation. At dinner, they finally talk about how his parents really weren't that warm to Rachel, and he's like, nah, like they liked you, and then like if we get engaged, they'll come around. And like somehow this is like, okay, Rachel's like, that'll do.
Do it.
Tino says I love you, and Rachel says I love you back, which is important.
Yeah.
After everything with Clayton. And then they go to the hotel room.
I wish we had better sound effects because I would play like the boing or like the porn music. Yeah.
Because we like our editing is minimal. Bill instead just comes with the singing for you all. That was better than if you would have edited.
Thank you. Well, I also do the editing, so.
Well, I appreciate your editing because I don't have to do it, but I don't think like you aren't adding in sound effects or anything.
No. Well, that's why I did that, so I don't have to do it. I saved myself at least 5 minutes. So.
Just efficient over here. So then Gabby and Johnny's, they have a very short date.
The most amicable breakup. It was like, I was like, I wish all breakups were like this. So like, yeah.
And it's pretty amicable for this late in the show.
Yes.
Right? That like usually this late in the show, the breakups are a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, Johnny's like, I'm here for a good time. And Gabby's like, yeah, I can tell you're here for a good time. I really am at a point where I want to get engaged. So I think we should probably break up.
And he's like, yeah, sounds good. They fist bump. She goes on a boat, which was very odd. And then it's like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have so many thoughts about all of these things. So then Erich kind of comes in. He clearly doesn't know that things are unraveling in a way that really is going to work out for him, because as like Johnny and Gabby are breaking up, we also see Jason like having what seems like an exit strategy talk with Jesse Palmer.
Yep.
And so you're like, Erich, just like don't mess up, right? And you're okay.
Yeah.
But he goes and he messes up and he's like, I don't know if I'm okay with it. Would just crush me. It crushes me to know that like you maybe have relationships with other people the way that you do with me.
I feel like this is why like romance novels and like the knight rescuing the princess are bad models, because I think that's what he thought he was doing. And it was like, if you just sat back and played it cool, like he would have, if he would have just been like, I trust you, I love you, like would have been fine. But he's like, no, I gotta jump in here and
well, like we can see everything. It's
yeah.
like, and so oh buddy. So anyway, they like pause it in the dramatic way that they do, where it's like Gabby and Erich are on a bridge and we're like, what's going to happen? So the next night we come back and they're still on the bridge, and it's kind of a really, you like expect some sort of maybe closure from this thing, but it's sort of like Gabby's like, yeah, I don't really appreciate this. We already had this conversation off camera. So like, I have other dates to go on. Peace.
We'll get back to it.
Yes, it's like super awkward. And it's super awkward. And then they just go on to Jason and Gabby's date.
Yep.
And the date seems to be going pretty well, but I will tell you, I felt like Gabby was just grasping for something that wasn't really there.
And Jason was giving zero indication that he wanted to do anything but bang.
He like had no, like, I mean, I don't think he's a particularly expressive person anyway. No. But like, it's like he had just like no reactions to like anything. And then like, we know that he isn't ready for an engagement, and he just hasn't told her that. And so finally he comes clean and he explains that he's not ready. And Gabby like tries so hard to sort of make it about the show. And so then they end up going to the fantasy suite.
Right. She like talks him into agreeing that if they turn the cameras off, then he'll be able to be honest.
See, and he was.
Turns out he was.
He was. He was like, it's not the show, it's you. I don't want a relationship. I think I sort of felt like she thought that maybe they could at least get to a place where they could imagine like, oh, we don't have to, like, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that he was even remotely close.
No, and his like that dinner was painful because she kept saying stuff and he'd be like deadpan, like, yeah, no, with stuff going on and and with given time and not cameras, I think we could get to the place where I could really, think I like you. And she'd be like, yeah. And it's like,
because I was confused, because I was like, is he saying, yes, I want a relationship with you, but in the context of the show, I just don't know if I can do it. And then it was like really clear later that she's like, I'm falling in love with him. And he's like, I think I like you.
Yeah, it was rough.
So rough. So then we go to another rough set, which is Rachel and Zach, who, by the way, are the super, like, they are so nerdy when they are together.
Yes.
And also boring.
Yeah.
So boring. Well, so they end up going to the fantasy suites. They come back, that they show us the next morning, and it's like the most awkward, boring. I was like, why are they showing this? Like that breakfast was so uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then they were like, are we on the same page? And they were like, yes. And I was like, I don't think you are.
So Zach says that Rachel was grilling him about whether or not he was actually ready to be engaged, and like just kept asking it. And then she was questioning his readiness to commit because of his age, and apparently she's like 3 months older than him.
Right. Yeah, there's not a big age difference.
I'm really, really interested in what we learn, because I think he sort of feels like she was leading him on, and that like, but like she hasn't been sort of like honest with him.
Yes, I think that was his point. Because he kept saying she's not the person who she says she is when she gets behind camera or something like that, when the cameras are on.
This is what I was wondering. She had a really great date with Aven. She's always been super into Tino. I wonder if she just knew that Zach was like not her person, but like had a hard time breaking up with him.
Right.
Like maybe Jason and Rachel need to be together, right? Like they can just stare at each other. But like, I mean, I couldn't sort of figure out what was going on. So
no.
Then we see that Rachel and her guys are getting ready for the rose ceremony. Zach is visibly upset. He pulls her aside. What will happen? We don't know. Then Gabby tells Erich that he's the only one left, and they say, I love you. And it seems like it's pretty good. And then we have what might be, and this is between this move and last week's Men Tell All episode, I am so annoyed with the Bachelor franchise right now. Because what they have is we have Jesse Palmer come out, and there's like 15 minutes left, and he's like, we aren't going to do anything because this is so dramatic that you need a week to prepare yourselves.
Yes.
Like, what the heck? And then just, no. Let's just shorten the episodes. We could have done all of this in 2 hours.
Exactly.
What's the time?
Yes.
Share it all. And that is how the episode ended.
Yes.
All right.
Unfulfilled.
Oh my God.
That would be the word I would use.
So my first thing I want to talk to you about is, do you think that Erich was testing Gabby? Like, you know, like, because she was like, I feel like you're testing me. Yeah. I feel like he's just experiencing what most people end up experiencing. You understand that you signed up to date someone who's dating other people.
Yes.
You start developing real relationships. Or, you know, you get close. You're thinking about something as intense as an engagement.
Right.
And the idea that they're seeing other people still freaks you out, even though you thought it wouldn't.
Yeah, we talked about that at the condo, the condo. Oh my God, the COVID group. We talked about this, and you know, Christy, who's been on the show, said, "Isn't that kind of what you want?" And I said, "I get where I understand where she's coming from." He's declaring like, "Hey, I don't want you. You know, it hurts me.
To be exclusive."
I care this much about you. That being said, he didn't make that statement before the fantasy suite, and that's where I have the problem, right? Like, I feel like if you knew this, you should have stated it before and then let her make the choice, where now that you've slept together, now you have a big issue with it, right? And it's like, I highly doubt that sleeping together was what flipped the switch, right? So that's where I have issues with it.
I wonder where, you know, it's hard because I don't know what their conversation was behind camera. I didn't feel like he was testing her. Like, I don't think he was like,
I'm gonna dump you if yeah,
I think that sometimes, and I thought that he handled things so much better than like maybe other contestants have actually in the past. I think he was just feeling vulnerable. Or I think, and I super empathize with this, I think that there's like a part of you that probably just goes like, I just want, like, if you know it's me, just like, not me. Like, can you like let me know?
Why do we have to go through this? Yep. If we both know we want each other, why do we have to go through the rest of this? Which I agree. I don't think there's anything that says they have to. Like, but yeah.
So, or like, you know, I think there's reasons that this is super healthy given the situation. A lot of times they don't talk about their other relationships.
Yep.
Right. And I think there's ways that that's pretty healthy given their situation. but I wonder if like some of it is you're like, I just give me a clue.
Right.
Like that you'd be like,
keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would be fishing for some information.
Yeah. And it's very different than real world, right? I know nobody that was like, well, we were pretty sure we were going to get married. And so I was like, go out, screw 2 more people, come back, and then let me know if we're good. Right. Like that's just not the way the world works. And so I think sometimes people's internal scripts, it just messes with them, even if they know in the abstract, this is what's going to happen. There's a lot of things in the abstract I'm okay with. And then once I get down to the nitty gritty, I'm like, nah, this is not how I want this to go down. So.
Nah, it's like writing a book. It sounds like fun, and then you have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, yeah, you're gonna have to go through edits, and then they're telling you to change things. And you're like, well, it's my book. I should get to do what I want. Or
the idea of it is more fun than like being actualized.
Well, I think that's just that there's very few things in life that like the actual act is better than the idea of it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like he was trying to be manipulative. I think I just felt like he seemed like insecure.
Yeah, I don't think there was like malintent behind it. I think he kind of lost his mind for a minute. And I don't even think he was giving her an ultimatum. I think he was saying his feelings, and then she kind of made it out to be an ultimatum. Because I think he even said in that argument, he was like, I'm not, that's not how I want it to come out. And I think it got ahead of itself.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting moment because I understand if you're Gabby and you're like, look at, we had this conversation. I thought that we were on the same page about this. Why are we rehashing this? On the other hand, I felt in this moment that Gabby was like, you kind of felt like one person makes a mistake, like any sort of mistake, and like that might just be the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, like in real life, if you're gonna like make this work, you're gonna have to learn how to move through these. And I do sort of wonder, like, if Jason would have been willing to stay, would she have been willing to work through that moment with Erich?
I don't think so. I think she liked Jason more than Erich. And
it's just interesting because I don't know that I feel like her and Jason's, like, I didn't feel chemistry, and I felt like their personalities were so different.
No, I was saying when we were watching it, it's like he is the type of guy that like comes home and needs to tell you about his fantasy football draft, even when you don't care. Like he has no concept of like, I don't care about fantasy. He's going to be like, so then I drafted Jamar Chase, but then I traded him. And it's like, you're not listening to me. I care about fantasy. It's like, right? He's boring.
I felt like really in boring. Some ways I felt like Johnny and Gabby have like more like the most similar energies. But like the thing that I think Gabby runs into is she does put off this like fun, lighthearted energy that then I think attracts people that aren't really ready to settle down.
Yeah.
She's at a place where she's ready to settle down.
Yeah.
And I think that does, like, because I think Gabby's a hoot. Like I like Gabby a lot. But yeah.
I also think she's somebody when it gets tough, she may be like, this is done. You're not the person. Like, she may attract someone who's not ready to settle down, and that's fine. Because I think, a lot of people do, and you grow together and you're like, all right, this is my person. But if like every time you hit something bad, you're just like, I can't, this isn't it. We got to go. We're done. Like, you're never going to find that person. So.
Well, you can't settle down without working through those things. So she might want to settle down.
Yeah.
The idea of settling down is like more.
It's way better than actually settling down.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Jesse Palmer. How do you think his listening and advice giving? It's like they kept going to him. He was like their sounding board, and
he doesn't give any advice. He's just like, yeah, wow, I'm sorry that's happening to you. And then it's like he took like the first week of a master's in counseling course. Like the first like introduction to counseling, and then he was like, well, I got all I need, guys, I'm gonna talk to you later.
I can't remember if it was, I think that it was Gabby that like went and talked to him, and she was really upset, and he was listening well, but I thought he was trying to not smile. Like there was like something about his facial expression. I was like, I think he's gonna laugh in her face. He's like holding it together. Like he seemed amused by what she was sharing. Like, oh, this is gonna be great content for the show. And,
I don't understand why they've decided he's the new what's his name? Yeah. I've already forgot Chris's name.
I've never really understood this role. You know, like it's a weird role. But like if you don't show us, like if you don't show the contestants ever having a relation, or the leads having a relationship with Jesse Palmer or Chris Harrison when he was doing it, Tasia and Caitlin, you know, like whoever it might be, if like most of the time they're just coming out and announcing something and then leaving, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is like this dad character where you come ask advice from them. It doesn't make sense if we don't ever get to see them.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Even though Tasha and Caitlin were at times like it didn't make a lot of sense what they were doing, you got the feeling that they hosted one or two.
For sure, one.
You got the sense why the principal was coming to them, right? Like they bonded, they felt like they trusted their advice. You know, they could lead them. I mean, they weren't great when they had them on the tell-all where they were very clearly reading off teleprompters and stuff. They didn't have that acting, but I was like, all right, you know, like I understand why they're here. They're kind of helping guide them. With like Jesse, it's like they could just set like a monkey there and right.
Yeah, it does. It feels like they're like, now we're gonna shoot a scene with you talking to Jesse about this.
And Jesse's like, wow.
And they're like, this is the first time we've talked in a couple weeks. You know, I don't know, it was awkward. All right, let's talk about leading people on. You know, did Jason lead on Gabby? Did Rachel lead on Zach? Like, what is leading someone on? Do you know things about this, Bill?
I mean, yeah, if you look at
your research, by the way.
I lead people on all the time. My employee, the people who I'm the department head for, they're like, he'll bring you into his office and just agree, and then all of a sudden he's like, nah, get out. No. So there is leading on is a thing, right? But it's probably more multidimensional than we give it credit for, because we're like, this person led this person on, and it's like, well, I don't think there's very few people that are so sadistic that they're like, I'm just going to lead this person on for the sake of leading them on. It's usually because they feel like there might be a potential with this person. They don't want to totally cut them out, right? And so what we find is when we, you look in the research, they talk about the exchange model. And so people don't leave relationships until they know that they have something better, and that the cost of losing what they have in the current relationship is going to be, superseded by the benefits of going into that other relationship. And so it kind of falls the same way if you're like trying to decide who to date. And so, I think they let him on because they were like, well, these other two people are better. But the other thing is, it's within the structure of the show, right? And so, no, they didn't lead him on, because at the point where they're supposed to cut him, they cut him. I think really like maliciously leading him on would be like, I'm not going to give you a rose, but after we're done, maybe we can get together. Like, I think that would be leading him on. So.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that Jason, to a certain extent, I think he could have been more clear with Gabby about his feelings more early on. I don't know that I think that I think Rachel's figuring things out. But how to put this? I get the feeling that Rachel is also a people pleaser.
Oh yeah.
And like she's nice, she wants to be nice, she doesn't want to hurt people. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the things that Zach is sort of saying that he feels that isn't on point, right? Yeah. Like that she maybe didn't do it maliciously or even maybe intentionally, like consciously. Right. But I do think that there might be ways that Rachel, in some ways, in service of her maybe not hurting someone, accidentally hurt them.
I think she's image conscious too. I think she wants to put herself out in a good image, which we all do. I just think some of us will go to greater lengths. Like I think Gabby is less concerned about how the world views her. I think Rachel, and so I think that's exactly what you're saying. She didn't want to hurt him. She didn't want to look like a bad person. I think probably with Jason, that's the case too. I think he was too chicken shit to just come up and say it. And so he was trying to nicely say it. And that's why that like painful, like dinner conversation, it's like, you could tell he was like trying to find the right words that would help Gabby connect. And it's like, Gabby just was not gonna have it, until they basically went to the fantasy suite. At least he didn't just start Elaine when we were watching. It was like, this is turning into a, what's it called? Paradise by the Dashboard Lights thing, where he's just going to start like, yes, I love you, so they can have sex. And it's like, at least that didn't happen. Right.
Yeah. So. Well, and I mean, I think what's interesting to me is there's something about Johnny who he just seemed to be more clear about who he was. Right. And where he was at with things. Yeah. It's more surprising to me in some ways that Gabby chose to keep him as long. Yeah. If that really was a deal breaker. Yeah. But like there are ways that like I felt like he was just a little bit more clear up front. Yeah. So Bill, what's your wild card? What do you want to talk about today?
All right. So here's what I want, because I feel like we've all given up on this season. I want one of the guys to decide that they want to marry the other principal. So I want one of Gabby's people. I want Erich or Jason or whatever the other guy's name is, because I've given up on their names as well, to be like, I want to marry Nicole, Rachel, or vice versa. And I guess my question is that, would they be in the wrong to request that at this point, especially if they had been sent packing?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay.
Here's why. I don't know how many weeks it's been since they sort of made a decision with the other person.
Between 3 and 12. I couldn't tell you.
And then I think because they know how close it is to an engagement, I think that if they realized that they had feelings for the other person, that their time has passed at this point.
Do you think it's different because they're on the same season? Like, what if next season Gabby was on again and one of Rachel Nicole's people were like, ooh, I want to date her? Would that be not
for
cool?
Me, I think it's about where they're at in the season. Like, if like a week or two ago, like I guess kind of where Logan was at, I still thought that there was like, it felt like there was a little bit of time, or like, like think about when they bring Blake Moynes on, or like one of those. Yeah. Like they wouldn't do that at the fantasy suites. Yeah. So for me, it's more about like the timing of things, probably, where like if you knew that somebody was in, I don't know.
So I have an additional question, and we had a good long debate in class about this today. So I threw it on there because I felt it was sort of related, because we were talking about the difference between friendships and romance. And so in the real world, when a significant other of a friend, when do they cross from I could date them if they broke up to I can't date them because it's been too long of a relationship?
Ooh.
Yeah, somebody said 3 months. Somebody said it depends on the quality of the relationship, which I was like, yeah, if you dated someone for a year, but they were an ass, you'd probably be like, well, I don't want you to date them. I mean, you can date them if you want, but it's not going to go well.
I think it probably depends on the intensity of the relationship, like the intimacy, like how intimate the relationship was. Because like I think if three people, well, three people can date too.
Thruple. There's a name for it, a thruple.
If you were dating for like 3 months, but it was pretty casual, and like you broke up and it was amicable, like, you know, the friends, then maybe you'd feel like, oh, my friend isn't even torn up about that. But if like, even if it was like a short relationship, I mean, I got engaged after 5 weeks, right? So like, but like somebody was, my friend was destroyed by it. At that point, like it's probably crossing a friend line.
Yeah. We had one guy in class that was like, no, they're talking. I can never date her again. Bros. And I was like, okay. He was very adamant about it in class. He did not garner a lot of favor. Yeah, everyone in class was like, no. So I was very proud of my professor self that I got them all stirred up. Like we had a raging debate. So cool.
So did you learn anything from this episode, Bill?
I learned that we're both kind of checked out from this season. We're just holding it together to the end. I learned that you used to be able to fall asleep wherever, but you've changed. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, like I don't know that I could go to your house during like lay on the floor with the pets and take a nap.
Yeah.
During the Bachelorette, my younger self could have made that happen.
Out.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I think that my lessons, I'm trying to think. By the way, so the reason I'm a little checked out is there's actually ways I found this season incredibly interesting.
Okay.
Like having the 2 Bachelorettes. Where I think we're both checked out is there hasn't been that much drama.
No.
You like. And for me,
I love drama. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, but like I just feel like they haven't been able to form relationships very well. And so like I think that those are the things that both of us really like watch for, and we didn't get either of those things.
I think the split created less drama and less chance for emotional connection when they were like, all right, you got to choose right now. I think that's what created this like lack of interest.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is it because there's 2 Bachelorettes that we felt like we got like that they have like less dates and like things like that? Or is it because they started with so many flippin' dudes? You know, like
I think it's both, because the big predictors of if you like somebody are really time and like depth of intimate conversation. And so those 2 things have basically removed those. What's the normal progression?
Yeah, it's just been, because I do think that Rachel has stronger connections with multiple of the guys, like multiple men. And I think I'm trying to sort of figure out too, you know, because like, is that because she kind of comes across as more serious and can like get to that, you know, like quicker, like, because I feel like Gabby had a much harder time developing the relationships as quickly. And I don't know if that's because of like the type of guys that she attracted or was attracted to. I don't know. You know, I think that that's kind of interesting to me too, because like with Rachel, you saw like all these people sort of like saying, I'm falling in love, I'm falling in love, I'm falling in love. And I think Gabby only got there with Erich.
Yeah. I think Gabby's more guarded. I think she is less kind of, here is who I am. And I think, like you said, the goofy side is somewhat her protecting herself until she gets to where she feels comfortable. And so I think that's probably where you see some of that.
Sorry, I'm gonna start a new topic. The only other thing that I could sort of think about with her and Erich too is I also wonder if his dad being sick. And what I kind of keep thinking of is I guess he passed away.
Yep.
Maybe like a month ago or something. And I wonder, like, so I kind of keep thinking about how that kind of is impacting the relationship, both in terms of potentially there's a situation that now like that requires like intimacy and support, like empathy and things. Like it kind of, you can't just like laugh and giggle through that.
Yeah, he got to see the real her, like, you know, and everyone who saw that was like, wow, she's really good at that type of thing. And, you know.
Yeah. But then also like if they are engaged or still together, you know, one of the other things that you sort of like know is like that's a tough thing to probably go through at the start of a relationship. So, you know, how does, you know, I'm just kind of curious how that unfolds. Do you have any predictions?
I think Gabby and him will end up together. I don't know if they'll stay together. And I think Rachel, Nicole, and Tino will end up together, but I don't think they'll stay together. What about you?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Rachel and Tino seem likely, although there's so much drama, you know, like I wonder if like Erich is also gonna be like, I'm not ready to be engaged. Like, I love you and like I want to be with you, but I'm also not ready to be engaged. So
I think the weird engagement stipulation is so strange to me that people get so hung up on that. Like in any other relationship, this would go on for a good like 2 years where someone would be like, I want to be engaged. And, you know, it's like, it's just because there's this weird timetable put on it. But like, this is not uncommon for one person to be ready and the other person to still be coming around, and you negotiate it. And yeah. So,
yeah, it seems interesting to me. I understand if you're like, hey, if you aren't ready to be in a committed relationship.
Right. Yep.
But like, yeah, the engagement thing is an interesting one.
And I think a 6 week and then you need to be engaged is unreasonable to put that on somebody.
That is like, why?
I think if both people are in agreement, great. But I think like 6 weeks, like I want it, so you need to be engaged or we're done. Like you're gonna find somebody. Like if you put that stipulation on everyone you meet, you're just gonna find somebody who's a pushover, unless they come to that genuinely, you know.
I feel like I said this maybe the last time that we recorded, but like I'm kind of surprised in some ways that you don't see contestants that maybe do break up because of that stipulation that don't end up getting back together. Because like, and like realizing that in retrospect, like, oh, I really did have a connection with you. It is kind of unreasonable to the engagement thing. Like, let's try this. But like, I don't know. You want to give the city shout out?
Oh, I do. And I'm going to butcher the name, but it is Piacenza. Piacenza Emilia Romagna, something in Italy. So what can I tell you about it? It is in kind of the upper part of Italy, up by the what would be the knee of the boot of Italy. Population is 103,000. Let's see, history. It was around pre-Rome. Let's see, what else do you want to know? Main sites. A great number of historical places, often characterized by splendid gardens. So there's a garden, there's a grotto, there's a statue of a guy on a horse. I'm sure the people from there are loving this description. My favorite thing, people. Let's see. Pope Gregory the 10th was from there.
Ah, sacred place.
Yeah. Giorgio Armani, fashion designer, was born then. That's a pretty good one. Someone named Luigi. I don't know what he did, but he's Italian, so they had to have a Luigi. Mario's brothers taught me anything. Let's see. Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Right. That's all I got, really.
That's great.
Yeah, let me see. Sport. Yeah, nothing impressive about sport. So, but we appreciate you listening to us, people in Italy.
Hey, go Italy.
Ciao. I believe that's one Italian word I know. Is that bye or hello?
That's both, I think. It's a greeting. Sure. Ciao. I say, yeah, sure.
Ciao.
I think it's hello mostly. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, you all, the Bachelorette is moving to Tuesday nights.
Tuesday night.
So
yep.
We'll see y'all on Tuesday nights watching.
Everybody have a good weekend.
Woohoo.
Enjoy.
You have been listening to Bachelorette
with your hosts, Danielle Dick McGee,
Kim Hanna,
and Bill Hennig.
All thoughts and opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the person who spoke them.
If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to the show, leaving a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Also, please share with your family, friends, colleagues, and other ardent Bachelor fans.
If you have comments or questions you would like us to address on the show, you can email us at bachelordamia@gmail.com.
Or on the Twitter with the handle @Bachelordamia.
Thanks for listening.